Written by C.B. Jones. The following features a transcript from a short radio broadcast that has been picked up by various listeners across the continental United States. Many have been perplexed by its sudden appearance and how it seems to preempt whatever song or radio program they are listening to at the time. It has even been known to appear on streaming programs such as podcasts or Spotify. Listeners have described hearing different episodes, and there have been many different situations and occurrences. Trevor contacted me with his story. He had heard the broadcast while driving in the southeastern United States. He spilled his story out to me in a venomous diatribe against the South. I was not sure what his vendetta against the region was. I knew that it had its problems and troubled history just like any other place in America, but he viewed it with a personal contempt that was jarring. This is his story.
Goddamn South. Why, oh why did my best friend have to move here? I guess these things are bound to happen eventually. You know someone all your life, through kindergarten and junior high and high school, and even up to the same college together. But the real world comes along, and so starts the job hunt and all the offers, and for some reason he accepts a job in Birmingham, freaking Alabama. There's a big signing bonus and relocation fees, and if you can commit to 3 years at the company, you get another huge bonus. They're practically bribing anyone with a STEM degree to move out to these shitty little flyover states. I mean, we were from an almost flyover state in Pennsylvania, but had gone to college at Stanford, and I thought we had seen the light, but the goal was not to end up in one of these places. The least he could have done was go back to Pittsburgh. It's really come a long way. For Tyler to move to a red state after all this time feels like a betrayal to all of our values and morals. I guess there really is a price tag on everything. We got really political together during our college years in Stanford. It was hard not to be. It was in the air and the water down there. And it was a great way to make friends and meet chicks. When 2016 happened, the first presidential election that we were able to vote in, the politicking hit a fever pitch. First, when our boy Bernie didn't get the nomination through some shadiness from the DNC, and then when Trump won, oh boy. We were full on in the whole resistance movement, but it felt like we were part of something, you know? We even went to a couple of those protests in Berkeley that got a little out of hand. So after graduation, when he told me the news, it was a huge kick in the nuts. Well, I mean, what was I supposed to do without Tyler? We were brothers in arms. Since kindergarten, we hadn't gone a full 3 weeks without seeing each other. Like, hell, I was going to follow him out to that godforsaken hellhole, Alabama. It is possible that he moved there because of the gal that he started talking to on the internet. From what little he talked of her, she was from somewhere down south. I thought it was going to be a one-off thing, a line of communication to someone on the front lines of the resistance, but maybe not. He didn't confirm either way when he called and told me that things were getting serious and that he really wanted me to come meet her. The worst part of it was that he wanted me to come there. I offered to host him at my place in Portland, but he deferred my offer. So I guess this is it, huh? You're some kind of southern...
Come on, man, it's not that bad.
Why didn't you at least take a job in Austin? And if you wanted to go to the South so badly, Austin I could vibe with at least.
Austin isn't the South, though. It's Texas.
Whatever. How is it living in a third world country?
It's Alabama, not Mississippi.
You think you're going to fulfill your contract to get the hell out as soon as possible?
I don't know. I'm actually starting to like it here. It's laid back.
Yeah, if you're white.
It's not what you think. Just come down here and see for yourself. I haven't seen you for a while, and it would be good to hang. Things are getting really serious between me and Diane, and I think she might be the one. I'd love for you to meet her and have your blessing. make sure I'm not making a rash decision.
Fine, I sighed. I'll visit the goddamn South with its N-word-using, gay-bashing, illiterate, immigrant-fearing, inbred hicks.
Hey man, cut the shit. You're completely off base. You've never even been here. Do you even know how many immigrants we've got here? You know, you're really in your own little bubble out there, cut off from reality. I didn't see it till I moved out here, how out of touch we could be. You're talking like some kind of coastal elite. How much diversity is there in Portland? How's that homeless thing working out for y'all?
Coastal elite? Y'all? It was really worse than I feared. They were converting him. I knew I had a visit, and soon. Not for a visit to catch up on old times and to give him my blessing, but for an intervention. I apologized to him over the phone and began to make arrangements for my visit. Hopefully, I could save him. I managed to secure some time off work. I can't get into the specifics just yet, but I was a programmer at a startup for a new app we were releasing that was going to involve car repairs and, hopefully, disrupt the industry. They were cool with giving me a full week off. I had never seen New Orleans and always kind of wanted to go, so my plan was to stay the night there, then drive up and over to Birmingham. I roamed up and down Bourbon Street alone and listened to some jazz and drank some Syrahs and Hurricanes, and well, I almost pooped my guts up in the alleyway, as I hear is tradition in New Orleans. Later, I got some baguettes at the Café du Monde and sobered me up enough that I could get an Uber back to my hotel safely. A late start to the next morning on account of my hangover, I took I-59 north. I was ahead of my schedule by half a day for when I was supposed to meet up with Tyler, so I figured I would drive over to Montgomery and check out this new memorial they had there. The interstate was a corridor with walls of tall, skinny pipes that lined the sides. The pines bordered large fields of brown, tufts of white puffing out like snow, cotton. The air was thick and hot, and my AC was blasting. Large green vines crawled and completely covered low-lying ravines and anything in their path. I could make out the shapes of trees under them that had been swallowed up. I would later learn that that vine was called kudzu. Billboards appeared every now and then, advertising and sharing their messages. Choose life, one said, and had a picture of a baby on it. How will you spend eternity? Asked another. Later I would read one sign that read, Go to church or the devil's gonna get you, and it featured a large red Satan holding a scythe. I pulled off at a truck stop near a city called Mirandian in Mississippi. I milled about for a while, looking for southern artifacts. I saw a small area that sold t-shirts and keychains that had Mississippi flags on them, and these looked like Confederate flags to me. There was a table with a couple of metal canisters with ladles sticking out of them with a sign reading, Boiled Peanuts. I had never heard of such a thing, so I peeked inside the canister and it was full of slimy-looking peanuts with shells still on them, simmering in brown liquid. Ugh, yuck. There was a fast food restaurant connected to the truck stop, and the day after a post-drunken binge, cravings were hitting me, and hitting me hard, all of a sudden. So I ordered a greasy cheeseburger and fries, sat towards the back of the restaurant. Maybe it was the hangover effects, or maybe it was just because I was in the South, but I was feeling paranoid and anxious. A big burly-looking guy in a plaid shirt and trucker's cap shuffled into the fast food area, carrying a styrofoam cup full of the boiled peanuts in a plastic bag. His neck was thick and stubbled, and his gut rested up against the table as he sat in the booth. He sat the peanuts down and looked at them for a long time. From the bag, he pulled out a box of Benadryl and ripped it open, punching out every single little pink pill from the blister packet and onto the table. Soon he had a small pile of pink pills as he swept the trash from the packaging alongside. Next, he procured 2 plastic cylinders from the plastic sack and set them next to the pills. I watched in bewilderment as he began to pick at the boiled soft peanut husk with his stubby fingers and squeeze out the nuts within. He placed these back into the styrofoam cup and tossed the desiccated shells onto the table. I watched the bizarre ritual for a while, up until he had shelled out an entire container. The goddamn South, I thought, shaking my head. What a freak. He pinched a handful of the Benadryl tablets and dry swallowed them, his Adam's apple bobbing as he stared up at the ceiling, and his eyes were closed. He looked back down at the peanuts for a long time, psyching himself up. He then slid his fingers in, pulled out some of the nuts, and then shuffled them into his mouth. And he did it again and again until his mouth was full. His jaw worked and worked. What in the Dixieland fuck? I thought. He's got the first mouthful down, gasped for air, and then shoved another handful into his mouth. At the top of his hairy chest, I could see pink splotches starting to spread upwards across his neck and expanding like enemy territories on a map. Putting another cachet of nuts into his mouth, he picked up one of the plastic cylinders off the table, flicked off a cap, and shoved it right into his arm. Through his shirt and everything. An EpiPen? Holy shit, that guy's allergic. What's he thinking? The invading splotches on his skin had advanced across the stubble territory of his neck and over the crest of his jawline. His lips had begun to swell, and bits of chewed peanuts flecked from his cheeks and chin. Yet he still continued eating and eating. He jabbed another EpiPen into his arm while he was still able to see, because his eyes were almost swollen shut, the sockets inflated with fleshy bags that formed cracks where his eyes should have been. He was huffing and puffing for air, a loud whistling wheeze that could be heard from across the room. Drool ran down his chin and his neck, and his eyes watered, yet he still chewed. Still he consumed, still he swallowed.
Hey man, what you doing?
A bystander asked him.
You's having a reaction to him.
The bystander reached for the peanuts, but the anaphylactic man swatted him away, his face bloated and hideous. He tipped the styrofoam cup back towards his head and dumped the remaining nuts down his desperate maw, chewed, and then collapsed onto the floor.
Hey, somebody call an ambulance.
The bystander yelled. I could still hear the man's whistling wheeze. I could see his fat stomach rising and falling. And I thought, I have got to get the hell out of here.
I had to ask Trevor, did the guy die? He tells me he doesn't know for sure, that he watched the paramedics arrive and successfully intubate the man with the anaphylactic reaction and haul him away. He continued with his story.
I arrived in Birmingham without further incident. The whole episode had frightened and disgusted me, and I kept replaying it in my mind for the rest of the journey. I wasn't used to seeing that sort of shit, to be honest. Were Southerners so dumb that they thought they could just eat something they were allergic to and not suffer any repercussions? Tyler lived in a revitalized urban area near downtown Birmingham. It seemed like an area that was an imitation of the trends that had started in bigger, hipper cities. There were hipster bars with craft cocktails, microbreweries, cool little restaurants, murals, and public art. I was actually surprised by it all.
You made it,
he said when he answered the door. His apartment was nice and spacious. His girlfriend, Diane, had yet to arrive. Barely, I responded. We sat for a while, drinking IPAs from cans and catching up. So I guess this little neighborhood is pretty cool, I said. Didn't know they had anything like that down here.
Yeah, it's really up and coming. The beer you're drinking is from one of the local breweries.
He seemed impressed by this, and it was kind of depressing. We had more local breweries out on the coast per capita than just about anywhere. I spent my weekends trying to discover them all, from Seattle to Bend, Oregon. In a couple of years, he'd be telling me exactly about the local dispensaries that they had settled down here. I cleared my throat. I figured now is the time to talk some sense into him, not while Diane was around. Is it, really racist here? How do you deal with it? I mean, how do you deal with it all? I mean, I've been on Twitter a lot, reading the political headlines, and I'm starting to think we should just expel the entire southern eastern region. All our tax dollars on the coast help these people and their hate out.
Trevor, it's like any other place. Do you know that Oregon drafted a state constitution banning black people? I'm sure there's racists and stuff around here, but I don't really see any of it. As far as the red state stuff goes, you do understand gerrymandering, voter suppression. The Southeast has a huge black population, more cities that are majority African American than anywhere. Are you just gonna expel them too? I don't know about you, but that sounds a little racist.
I don't know, man. Driving up here, it's like the buckle of the Bible Belt. I think I'm going to hell now, by the way.
Just relax with all this political stuff. Quit trying to be so woke and right the world's wrongs from your phone while you're not really doing much else. Unplug from social media and Twitter and all that. Start living in the real world for a change. Let's have some fun this week. Miss you, bud.
He said and gave my trapezius a stiff squeeze. I've been off social media for a bit. There's this thing the tech dudes are all doing called a dopamine fast. It involves getting off of all that stuff periodically so your reward centers in your brain can rest and reset and charge. I haven't seen pictures of you and Diane yet, by the way, because of the fast. She arrived, and I must say that he had done well for himself. She was stunning and had a laid-back personality, and it honestly made me relax. I only had one main concern, and that it had to do with where he lived and who she was. She was black.
I asked Trevor why that bothered him. He responded that he was worried about the prejudice and stuff, and that Tyler had never dated anyone like that before. Anyone like what? You know, like a person of color or whatever. When I asked him if he could expound further on these concerns, he really couldn't. He continued on.
The visit went well for the next few days. Tyler and Diane were gracious hosts, and I learned a little bit about Southern hospitality from Diane, who had been born and raised in Atlanta. They showed me the sights of Birmingham, and we ate a lot of food that was good Southern cooking. Everyone in town seemed really friendly too. I must admit that I was starting to reverse my stance on the South. It didn't seem like a half-bad place after all. But then I would scroll through these news stories in the morning about the sad state of affairs of our country was in, and I couldn't help but to blame the legislators and the senators in this part of the country and the people that voted for them. I would get this feeling that I was in the wrong place and get the urge to just get the hell out of there. Tyler and I had a bit of a guys' night out, and it was supposed to be my last night in town. We went to a neighborhood called 5 Points South and spent the night hopping from bar to bar. If you didn't focus too much, you could be anywhere. Only thing different was the accents, and even those weren't too bad. As the night went on, we were feeling better and better and having more of a good time, to be honest. We snuck into a back alley behind the dumpster where Tyler magically procured a spliff. Look at you. Where did you get that? I asked with drunken glee.
I have my ways.
He lit it, and we took turns taking hits. Honestly, it was such a good night. A sudden melancholy fell over me. These nights were no longer the norm. From here on out, we'd see each other less and less and less, and I felt grief and anger welling up from somewhere deep within. Tyler was laughing at something he had just said, but I felt a strong urge to lash out. Man, what a night, eh? Too bad these are going to be too far and few in between from here on out. It was nice knowing you.
Aw, man, we'll still see each other. How about Diane and I fly out and visit you in Portland?
It won't be the same. I was quiet for a while. We both were. And stared at the dirty ground lit by orange street lights. I started getting more upset. We're never going to be able to just fuck off and go to Thailand or whatever. Burning Man. You're going to be down here, getting all established with your job and your girlfriend, and next thing you know, you're going to be married and your token black girlfriend and having a little half and half. An impact flashed across my jaw, and my head jerked, and I was sent stumbling. I would feel the pain later, but right now, I was sinking. I hit the ground and laid there, dizzy, everything out of focus.
Fuck you,
I heard Tyler say from above me. I didn't get up. I stayed on the ground for a long time, feeling sorry for myself. Why not just stay down here forever? No one would care. I got bored after a while, and I got up and brushed myself off and realized my phone was completely dead. I staggered out of the street. Maybe I could borrow someone's phone and hail an Uber. I had a little bit of cash. Out on the sidewalk, a group of black guys were walking my way, talking loudly and laughing it up. And I got a bad vibe from them, so I quickly hurried across the street and headed in the opposite direction. I didn't want to add being mugged to the night's insults. I found a late-night donut shop where I ordered some coffee and was able to charge my phone. Between the joint, the coffee, the water, and being punched in the face by my best friend, I was feeling more sober than I ever had in my life. I decided right then and there that I was leaving, and after my phone charged enough, I held my Uber back to my hotel, got my things, and I hit the road. I was heading east to Atlanta, where I had a direct flight back to Portland. I was heading east on I-20. It was about 4:15 in the morning. I was letting my phone charge, and the XM radio was barely audible. A voice began to speak with the utmost clarity, almost like someone was sitting right in the passenger seat talking to me. It was the radio, the broadcast that people have been telling you about.
Good morning, folks. I'm Buck Hensley, and I'm here with another episode of The Rules of the Road. Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away. I don't remember the rest of that fucking song goes. But boy, do I wish I was in the land of cotton. Kyle and I took a little tour of the region back in the day. That southern heat sure was sultry. And the windows were down while our sweaty legs stuck to the vinyl seats as we cruised down gravel roads past fields of cotton. The ubiquitous chirping cicadas filled the air, soon to be joined by a chorus of frogs in the waning evening light. It was just downright beautiful, but kind of a sad beauty, you know? Carla must have thought so too as the tears streamed down her face, and all the while she kept smiling and smiling. I asked her what was wrong, but she didn't have to tell me. We both knew. Speaking of that Dixie song, did y'all know it was from minstrel shows? A bunch of white folk dressed up as black people, wearing blackface and everything. It was even one of Abraham Lincoln's favorite songs. Ain't that something? Speaking of blackface, I feel like I'm wearing whiteface myself these days. Human face, that is. And a pale imitation at that. I may have to go fetch me a new one. This one's getting a little torn around the edges. But I digress. Alrighty, on to tonight's rule. If at any point in your journey you pull over at a gas station or convenience store or vegetable stand or whatever, and you see that they have boiled peanuts for sale, then you must buy them. Ladle up a big old heaping cup or bowl full of them delicious goobers. Pay for them and eat them right there on the site. I promise I won't be too jealous.
Trevor tells me that this was a sudden revelation to him, and he thought of the man he had seen at the truck stop. An eerie feeling fell over him. He continued listening.
Before you go off on a tizzy, I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, Buck, I ain't eating no dang roadside boiled peanuts. I like my peanuts honey roasted and floating in my Coke bottle. Who ever heard of boiling peanuts? Nuts are supposed to be hot and roasted and salty of my girlfriend's attitude. My mama made me chicken strips and hot dogs every night of my life, and I'm afraid to try any sort of new food. I'm afraid it might come up and bite me or taste yucky. And to that I say, fair enough. But you might want to pinch your nose and go ahead and swallow those tasty legumes down. For if you don't follow this rule of the road, then you're in for a rude awakening. A slow, creeping, crawling terror might just befall you. Watch your back. And don't get too settled for too long, 'cause it might just slowly choke you out. Well, that's all for tonight. The sun's about to come up and I've got to get a move on. I've got so many faces to meet and places to see and folks to inform. Y'all stay safe out there. Stay alert, stay lively, stay lonely. I'm Buck Hensley, and these are the rules of the road.
That was weird, I said to myself. Did that trucker back in Mississippi hear the broadcast? He must have. Why else would he have done that to himself? Knowing that he had a nut allergy, how gullible and stupid could you get? The warning seemed vague. Even if he did believe it, wouldn't he have much rather taken his chances? I was almost to the airport and I needed to fill up the rental car before I turned it back in. Sure enough, at the first gas station I stopped and they had boiled peanuts for sale. I considered the broadcast and the rule I was given. There was no reason for me to believe this, but a little good luck couldn't hurt. So I opened the crock pot full of peanuts and ladled one into a napkin. I wanted to try it first. I peeled it out of its shell and popped them in my mouth. Yuck! Oh god, it tasted like some sort of bean. I spit it out. Fuck the South, I muttered to myself, and I left that gas station. My flight out of Atlanta was canceled. Something mechanical, they said. The airline comped me a room. Before I left the boarding area, I overheard some flight attendants and a pilot talking about the issue.
Really, that's the strangest thing.
Yeah, it was all wrapped up in both engines. And that's not the strangest part. It was all over the landing gear, climbing up the side and into the engine. Must be some sort of sabotage, I guess. How else could you explain it?
I looked out the window at the plane I was supposed to board, but I couldn't make out what they were talking about. Just something green hanging from the jet engine. So yeah, I'm holed up in this shitty hotel, killing time waiting for my flight. It leaves out tomorrow afternoon. I got to Googling the rules of the road, and to see if it was some sort of regional radio program or what. And that's where I found your website and your call for those that had encountered the broadcast. That's really all I have. I didn't follow the rules. I must admit that it did make me a little paranoid reading about the encounters on your website. So, you're behind this whole thing, huh?
I tell Trevor that no, I'm not behind it. I don't know if he believes it. He asks me if this is some sort of ARG game, what company I work for. I tell him, not as far as I know, the rules are very, very real. I then ask him if he's pulling one over on me. He asks, are they going to make a movie about this? We ask each other more similar questions and then end the call. I'm worried about him. He may be a douchebag and a hypocrite, prone to a strange overcompensation, but I am worried about him. The rules don't fuck around. Do douchebags realize that they're douchebags? Are they aware of their behavior and its negativity? Maybe not in the moment, but after a period of self-reflection, do they ever look back with regret? He calls the next morning, frantic.
Okay, so this is all a big joke, right? The cameras are gonna burst in any moment, and we're all gonna have a big laugh. Haha, did Tyler put you up to this? To teach me a lesson?
I'm groggy. Is this Trevor? What's going on?
Quit fucking with me, man!
Trevor, just calm down. Tell me what's happening.
I woke up, and there were all of these, vines. They were covering my entire body, my legs, and my arms, and around my neck and everything. One was starting to go down my throat.
I had nothing to do with this, Trevor. It's the goddamn rules. They're real. I follow the ones I've heard. Where are you now?
I'm in my motel bathroom. I managed to yank most of them off me, but one is around my ankle still, and it's really on there tight. They're starting to move under the door. Oh shit.
Can you, call 911? Give them your location? If I was a prank show, I swear I would have told you that. I hear him take a deep breath.
Okay.
I continue to reassure him. I tell him that I have my phone by me and for him to please call me back. After a very long 5 minutes, my phone rings.
They say they're on their way. They didn't sound like they believed me, so I told them that I had killed somebody in my room and that I was going to kill more. Now that got their attention. Oh fuck, I'm so scared.
His voice was growing more high-pitched and manic.
Shit, my fucking ankle's bleeding. Holy shit, I can see the bone.
Trevor, stay with me.
Oh my god, there's so many vines in here. It's kudzu. That's what it is. It takes over.
He began to laugh hysterically and hyperventilate. I could hear the clang of a toilet tank lid. I could imagine him standing on it, the vine wrapped tight around his ankle, blood running down the porcelain, greenery advancing on him and wrapping around whatever limb or body part it could find. The shower rod. Whack them with the shower rod. Over the phone, I could hear rustling and clanging and him hollering and screaming.
Oh God, they're on my leg! Call Buck Kinsley, I'm begging you, please, please, please.
Trevor, I can't just... I didn't know what to say. The rustling grew louder and I could only hear him mumbling to himself prayers and apologies to gods and people unknown. Then there was a sudden scream, a loud bang, and nothing. I called his name again and again, but there was no response. Silence.
We found him out back by the dumpster, in the brush and weeds. He was deceased.
The authorities found his cell phone in the hotel room and had contacted the last number that was called. Detective, can you tell me how he died? You can be blunt.
Right now, I only have a couple of ideas. His right leg was missing below the knee, just torn off real messily. But it's weird. It didn't look like he bled out because whoever did this had wrapped a tourniquet on that thigh. A tourniquet made of vines. It prevented the massive blood loss that would normally cause shock in that situation. So bleeding out wasn't the cause of death.
Was all I could say.
So that's a possibility. But he had ligature marks around his neck, all made with vines. So he may have died from strangulation. But there were also vines in his mouth, down his throat and in his abdominal cavity. One of the strangest things I ever saw. His whole body was just covered with vines. The silhouette of a person just out there in the landscape like a goddamn art project.
I could only stammer.
Where did you say you were from?
I told him.
Well, we'll be in touch. Right now, we suspect some type of sicko ritual murder. The killer called us from his phone, so he likely had his time with him all night before the call. We haven't even found his leg. So our best guess is that he had his way with the poor guy, wrapped him up in vines and shoved him in every possible place and orifice he could, and then presented him. Maybe it was this Buck Hensley fella. Whatever it is, it was like he was trying to make some kind of statement.
I told him that I would help them in any way that I could, but I knew that there was nothing that they would be able to find to uncover that would make sense of this whole awful mess. Not unless the Atlanta PD had supernatural connections.
It's a weird coincidence. They grounded a plane out at Hartsfield just yesterday. Had vines all wrapped up in the landing gear and both engines. Kudzu. They've never seen anything like it.
Well, that was a lovely story, wasn't it? If you're jonesing for more, consider joining the subreddit Jonesing for Fear to stay up to date on rules of the road.